Joining us today for part 2 in our analysis of Canada's new federal vaping regulations is Rajeev Sharma, Managing Partner at Sharma Lawyers. On behalf of his clients, Rajeev has extensive experience working with Health Canada, the Ontario Ministry of Health, and other provincial governments on a variety of healthcare files covering pharmaceutical advertising and marketing, medical devices, medical marijuana, and consumer natural health products. Rajeev, thanks again for joining us. Picking up where we left off, we were discussing the advertising and communications ban in the draft regulations. I'd like your opinion on a couple of sections that would deal with false and misleading claims around the potential health benefits of vaping. The draft regulations state that no person shall promote vaping in a manner that could cause a person to believe that health benefits may be derived from the use of vaping products. And in the following section, no person would be allowed to compare the health effects arising from the use of a vaping product or from its emissions with those arising from the use of a tobacco product and its emissions. A ban on making health claims outright is understandable and is already a practice the industry follows. So Rajeev, my question to you, if there is one, what is the problem with these sections?
The problem is the provision in the draft regulations that says you can't compare an e-cigarette to a tobacco product. You can't make any claims, you can't advertise, you can't promote that, you can't even talk about the health differences or the differences, period, about between the e-cigarette and a combustible cigarette. Essentially eviscerates any ability of the industry to talk about the health impact or the health benefit of e-cigarettes. And that's a problem.
So is this a good example then of a section the industry should fight to get removed?
Well, if I was the industry, absolutely. I think that's one of the things you have to impress upon the Senate committees that are going to put pen to paper in terms of finalizing these things, is that essentially means that this regulation is completely and utterly meaningless in delivering the knowledge that is required to make the intermediaries, at the very least, physicians, pharmacists, and the like, to understand the health benefits that this may have, and that certain public bodies have already said are available to those who wish to quit smoking. And so if you can't communicate that through learned intermediaries like physicians, pharmacists, and others to the smokers who will benefit from it, I think you've got a regulation without any impact. And well, the impact is it eviscerates the ability of the industry to grow and therefore potentially save lives.
Rajeev, do you think the saving lives component in this is being overlooked by Health Canada?
I'd like to believe that Health Canada, as a regulator, is going to look at this in more detail. I think that the timing has been tight. I think they probably have a lot on their plate. I know that Health Canada, in addition to the pharmaceutical regime and in addition to revamping the natural health products regime, and now with medical marijuana on their plate, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe in the next several months, as they refine these legislations, Health Canada will put their input in and make sure that those health benefits can be communicated responsibly and in a very restricted way. Nobody's saying that the vaping industry should be able to make health claims writ large, but in at least a very limited way to be able to communicate the health benefits, the potential health benefits of vaping over smoking. I think it behooves them to make sure that the committee understands that.
Rajeev, not being able to draw a distinction between vaping and the deadly effects from smoking seems nonsensical.
Yeah, and frankly, it's misleading. It's misleading the public, because if there is a growing body of evidence, again, to suggest that there are some health benefits of vaping over smoking, and people don't know it and they continue to smoke, then I think we've done our population a disservice, those who, the 15 to 17% or whatever the number is, that continue to smoke cigarettes. I think you've done them a huge disservice, and I think you've done frankly, not to sound mathematical about it, but you've done your public treasuries a disservice and your healthcare system a disservice at the time when they least need the expenditure, with the silver tsunami and the aging population coming.
Rajeev, I want to ask you about the potential consequences behind the primary mission of the new regs. and that's to limit the appeal of vaping to young people. Do you think there could be an adverse impact on adult smokers that are trying to quit?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question. Like with all regulation, I think it tries to balance the cost benefit, right? And I think it's deceivingly elegant to think that banning cotton candy flavored e-juice and things of that nature will stop children from vaping. But I really don't think that that's where we should be focusing our efforts, frankly. I think, like all things, I mean, you ban them for those under 18 and you move on. And whether some are going to vape or not, they're going to do that irrespective of the regulations, irrespective of whether it's cotton or bubblegum flavored e-juice. I think that's a red herring. I think you just put that aside. What I do see the potential benefit is even if you move 1, 2, or 3% of smokers off smoking, I think that far outweighs and swallows any of the costs that might come with that, which includes having a few underage children start vaping who otherwise wouldn't. Again, I don't have the empirical evidence. It's just logic in my experience in the regulatory field. And I happen to teach a course in law and economics where I look at the law and economics of regulation. And that's one of those questions. And I think in this case, my gut tells me the benefit to those who are looking for a way to get out of smoking far and vastly exceeds any of the cost.
Rajeev, do you see Bill S5 as overregulation?
In my gut reaction is it is overregulating. And, in other industries, I understand the nuances, the other regulated industries that I work in, beer, pharmaceuticals, and the like. I see the logic in the nuanced regulations that apply to those industries. I don't see the logic in the way that these drafted regulations apply to the vaping industry, simply because it's not a one-size-fits-all. You need to make sure that this industry is regulated the way this industry should be regulated. And it's not the same as pharmaceuticals, and it's not the same as beer, and it's not the same as tobacco. It's going to have to have its own set of regulations that make sense for this industry.
How realistic is it to expect changes could be made to the draft regs?
If common sense individuals like you and I are talking through these regulations in 20 minutes or less and finding these real serious problems, not to mention maybe some charter challenges that may be coming in respect of this as well, surely those wiser than you and I, sitting around a Senate committee table with a bunch of experts, will come to a conclusion that is more sensible than the regulations are as drafted.
Finally, Rajeev, it certainly seems like this is a critical moment for vaping in Canada.
This is a critical moment in the industry's future. They have to make sure that they get the right government relations individuals, that they get the right lawyers, and they get the right regulatory experts in front of government. And lobby them, frankly. You need to lobby them very hard with clear, sound, logical science and cogent arguments about why overregulating this industry is bad for public health, not good for public health.
Well, that's it for this special edition of RegWatch. Before you head off, please like us on Facebook and don't forget to follow us on Twitter. For RegulatorWatch.com, I'm Brent Stafford.